Hey stranger. So I wanted to post a new video as kind of a follow-up to the video that I posted about 3 months ago on coming out to your parents. I know I haven't been posting videos with any sort of regularity. That's probably going to continue given that I only really make videos when I think of a topic to do and also have the free time. Someone's banging on the ceiling, and I really hope that that is not too loud in this video. I also don't really have any video editing software at all still, nor do I have any money to purchase any, so this is going to be another one of those kind of like one-take things where I just try to speak coherently and get all the information out in a timely and coherent fashion if I can. So, without any further ado, this video will be about coming out at school, my experience coming out at school as non-binary, and basically any advice that I have to people who are looking to do the same. So, I'm out as non-binary in every aspect of my life. I'm comfortable saying I'm out to my immediate and extended family. I'm out at school. I've been out in workplaces. When I do work, I usually do not work because I am a student and also because I have issues with disability. And so, yeah, but I'm out in every aspect of my life. I'm not really comfortable living in a way that is defaulting to either male or female for convenience. Not that I have any issue with people who are okay doing that or people who need to do that. There's no judgment there. It's just not something that I'm comfortable doing at all, and also I'm in a position of privilege in my life where I don't really need to, or I'm at least able to fight for my ability to be out as non-binary with minimal repercussions. So, I understand that not everyone is able to do that, not everyone wants to do that, not everyone is in a position where they can do that, but if you are, or you think you might be, or this is something that you want to do, then I'm just here to share my experience with you and maybe help out some other people. So, I'm out as non-binary at school. That came about mostly because I've been out as non-binary for about 4 years now, and so I wasn't, I didn't transition at school. I was going into college, and I was just very open about my identity when I got there. I have disability issues to do with mental health and also to do with physical disability, and so I had a meeting with my registrar in which I outlined all of my needs as far as accommodation and things like that, and in my accommodation meeting I said, like, these are my pronouns. Luckily by that point I had already changed my name to my preferred name. In Ontario that's about $136 and it takes 4 to 6 months to go through, so that wasn't much of a hassle once I had that money set aside. And so my name was never an issue. I did get misgendered by my teachers, or one teacher, a few times, and I basically was just, I just had to have a conversation with her, and I basically just told her that, if you find it really that difficult to use my pronouns, I was very polite about it, but I said, if you find it really difficult to use my pronouns, then just refer to me by my name, because your name is a proper noun, and pronouns are just for use, in place of your name. So if a teacher is having a particularly difficult time with your pronoun, especially if you're using singular they or other pronouns, and especially for teachers who are from an older generation who were specifically taught that it's like never proper to use singular they, even though it totally is, they sometimes have kind of hard time with it. So I just told teachers, like, if you have a hard time using my pronouns, just call me by my name. And so I haven't really had much of a problem at school. Everyone's been really receptive. Unfortunately, last year, I wound up defaulting to male quite a bit, just because, I kept telling people I was non-binary, and I kept telling people things like that, but I had been on testosterone, and my voice was quite low, and I was also presenting quite masculinely, and so people kind of, they were like, oh yeah, you're gender fluid or whatever, but you're still basically a guy, and I'm like, haha, little do you know. And so that was kind of awkward and uncomfortable for me because I'm not able to wear a binder because I have chronic pain. I do have a binder now that I wear sometimes, but it's still not something that I can do on any sort of regular basis. And so it was quite stressful for me to feel like I was constantly like being viewed under the assumption that I was, like assigned male at birth, and having to kind of like live up to those physical and social expectations was very stressful for me. And so I felt very uncomfortable correcting people about it, though, because I thought, like, if I correct you and I tell you that I'm not a guy or that I'm not assigned male at birth, then you're just going to like default to calling me female in the same way that you defaulted to calling me male. And I was really worried about that, and so I didn't say anything about it for the first year, and then I wound up having to drop out in the second semester because of disability issues, and then I went back this year, and when I went back this year, I was quite open about it because, like, my identity is constantly evolving, and I'm constantly becoming more and more comfortable with, advocating for who I am and my right to be who I am, and so I was more comfortable. I was in a more stable place when I came back this semester, and I was very open with people. I actually had a conversation with some of my friends from last year, and I said, like, look, like, I've told you that I'm trans, I've told you that I'm gender fluid, but I don't really think that you're getting what that means. And I did disclose to them that I was assigned female at birth, and they were quite receptive to that, if not maybe a little bit surprised. I wasn't really able to gauge their reactions very well, I don't think, but they were quite receptive to it, and I feel like everyone, even people from last year, have kind of gotten that message, because I've always been very, like, gender non-conforming, and people have always been a little like, I don't know what to call you, but I think now, like, the message is quite clear that I am non-binary, I'm not male, and I'm actually, like, quite open about being assigned female at birth. Not, like, quite open, I don't really talk about it, but I mean, like, I am more comfortable like wearing t-shirts and not binding at school now, because that was something I was really stressed out about last year. But anyway, I feel like I'm talking way too much about my personal experience that is not really relevant to other people who are watching this video. So basically, advice that I have to other people who are looking to come out as non-binary at school, who are not of my rare experience of, starting testosterone and passing as a guy and then having to, like, reverse come out. But basically, the most important thing that I can say and that I have done is to write a letter. And I wrote a letter to all of my teachers. And I do this at the beginning of every semester. Whenever I have a new teacher, I send them this letter. Basically describing myself as being transgender and non-binary, and explaining that I don't identify as male or female, and outlining my pronouns. I will link to the stock letter, basically, that I use in the description, which I have published for other people to use. I've gotten a lot of feedback on it, and I think that it's quite good. So if you want to check that out, that might be a useful resource for you. I recommend that it's very important that you write the letter in a way that's very inclusive. You're writing it to let them know from a kind place, and from a place where you're already anticipating that they will understand, and you're already anticipating that they will support you, and you're just letting them know. So I feel like I outlined that pretty well in the letter that I'm linking to. But yeah, it's very important to write a letter and let people know, and it's also very important that your letter is kind of assumptive. Like, you're assuming that they're aware of these issues, you're assuming that they are okay with it, you're assuming that they will just accommodate you. And that's gotten the best reception out of any, like, letter method that I've tried. Because the important thing to know is that transgender people in most school boards, I feel comfortable saying most, but I'm not really quite sure about that, in Canada and the US do have protection rights. Protection rights for trans people in Canada are kind of sketchy because we have provincial human rights protections. Like, I live in Ontario, and in Ontario we have provincial human rights protections, and I think over 50% of the provinces in Canada have provincial protections for transgender people. And so if there are protections under the Human Rights Code, either provincially or federally, they do need to be written into school board policies. And so where I live, there are protections for trans people and gender nonconforming people in school board policies and in provincial policies, but there is no federal laws about it in Canada. So there are a couple provinces where that's not provincially or federally mandated. And I know in the US things go really, like, state by state, so it depends on if there are laws about that in your state. and things like that. But the thing is that even if there aren't laws about it in your country or in your state, there often still are laws about it for your school board or for your district. And so, like, I would do some research about that before approaching it, to just, make yourself aware of what your rights are. And I understand that not all non-binary people identify as trans, but it is important that if you're talking to your school about it, if you're talking about it in any sort of a legal setting, and like advocating for yourself, it is important that you frame it in like as being primarily a transgender issue, because in pretty much all transgender policies, it does mention non-binary people or genderqueer people or things like that. It does mention that there are identities other than male or female, and so you will be protected under those policies and under those laws. But it's important for the clarity of the issue that you do frame it as being a transgender issue. When I approach people talking about accommodations that I need, or respecting my pronouns, or just any normal thing like that, I do frame it as primarily a transgender issue. I kind of identify as transgender first and non-binary second, because like I do have a transgender experience. My life is very much defined by my existence as a trans person, and so yeah, the trans piece is quite important in that. And honestly, even if there aren't provincial or state protections, and there aren't federal protections, and even if there aren't district protections, I would still send the letter. I would just, keep that in mind when you're structuring it. The other thing is bullying. And I'm sure that every school board policy, or district policy, whether it's provincial or district or anything like that, does have bullying policies, and it's very important for you to be aware of that when you're going into it. If anyone harasses you, if anyone is purposefully misgendering you, or anything like that, it is very important that you bring that to staff or administration or anyone. It's very important that you don't, tolerate that kind of thing. And I actually haven't had many experiences. I had like one experience with someone being shitty towards me, which I dealt with personally. But I haven't really had many issues with people being inappropriate to me intentionally or directly for being trans or for being non-binary. But I also am in college. I'm not in high school or elementary school, and I can't really speak to those experiences. I did find that I had a slightly more difficult time explaining the concept of being non-binary to my high school teachers than I did to my professors. And I think that might just be because by the time you're in college, people kind of expect you to know who you are, and people expect you to be kind of an adult, whereas there's a more, a kind of patronizing or paternal mindset from high school teachers and from elementary school teachers, that they don't view you so much as being a self-determined adult, at least just in my personal experience. So I can't really I don't really have too much to say about coming out in high school, other than what I said still applies about writing the letter. It's important that you meet with your guidance counselor. It's important that you meet with your principal or any like higher administration, because it is very important to send the letter to your teachers, but it's also important that that letter also goes to the higher administration, so that that can kind of be reinforced by people who are in a position of authority within your institution. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, like, I thought that I would have something that was in more detail, but honestly, the letter is pretty much all I've had to do. That and dealing with correcting teachers who call me the wrong pronouns. I just tell them to either practice it, or if they can't, then just call me by my name. It's also very important and very useful to provide your teachers and school staff with resources, because a lot of the time they haven't encountered anyone of that identity before. My lights are doing a weird thing. Luckily, the year that I'm in now, there's actually 2 other non-binary people in my year, and so I'm by no means the only person in my program or in my year right now, but I definitely was last year, and so it really depends on your circumstance. but in the incident that they haven't actually encountered any non-binary people or even any trans people at that school before, it's good to provide them with some resources, and that is also included in the letter that I will link to in the description. Just to give them a good idea that this is like a school issue. This is something that there are policies about, if not in their district, but in other places. This is something that other teachers and other school administration have created policies to deal with and kind of frame it in that educational and scholastic light. And like framing it in a way like, this is what other teachers and this is what other schools are doing to accommodate people like me. This is a real issue. This isn't just something I'm making up or, you know, something weird like that. Yeah, I've personally had pretty good luck with it. I haven't really had any teachers be, you know, intentionally rude or not receptive to it. Everyone has really been trying their best, even if they, you know, mess up here and there. I've even had school administration get to the point of calling me they pronouns. I do let people call me he pronouns if they absolutely have to, although I don't really like it. But I've gotten to the point where my school administration actually does call me they pronouns, which has been ace. And so, yeah, there is hope. There is a way to do it. There is a way to be out as non-binary in school and in college. And I would honestly, if anyone is thinking about coming out at school or has experiences coming out at school, I would love to hear about your experiences. I would love to hear about any other questions that you may have about this. The other thing is that, just to leave this off, I am thinking about doing a Q&A video pretty soon, and so if you have any questions you would like to ask me about literally anything, gender, identity, life, sexuality, even intersex things, because I made a video about that recently that I never really touched on again, or things to do with my relationship, things to do with school, coming out, anything like that. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the description, or you can send them to my blog, which I will also link to in the description, and I'll probably make a video soon answering some FAQs from people. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. I hope this video was in some way helpful to someone out there in the world, and yeah, I hope you have a nice day, and I will see you next time. Peace out.